I'd love to talk a little bit about that idea of personal and memorable, Reg. I think that I like how you're kind of circling in on this idea of they don't necessarily care about you measuring what you're doing. You need to kind of tie it to what's personal for them and help them remember it. And it reminds me of an article we were all kicking around before the session that we'll put a link to in the notes here, but it's called Why We Remember Music and Forget Everything Else. And so if you're like me, you've got like, show tunes and or ad jingles in your head. I found myself a couple weeks ago humming the Oscar Mayer theme song, which you've got to be a certain age to remember. And I'm sorry if I've just put that in your head for the rest of the week. But but
it is there.
That you're like, I can't believe I can remember that from when I was 6. But part of what the article talks about is this idea that even if you're not a musician, you still have this intuitive connection with music and understanding of music, and music actually releases dopamine if you're listening to music you enjoy, which is part of why it's so intertwined with how we express ourselves, how we comfort ourselves, and with that idea of memory, of taking you back to a place. And so if you'll let me tell a little story. We talk about music a lot in my house. My kids, I always like to say, are terrible at sports, but they're very musical. So I've been to my fair share of band presentations, orchestras, choir concerts, etc. And my son just graduated with a degree in music composition. And so often find myself talking with him about kind of the theory underpinning music, why some of it makes you happy or sad. And a couple of years ago was musing on how my workout playlist is really different from the music I listen to in my everyday life. And I started naming some of the songs, and it's stuff like Eye of the Tiger, it's the classic stuff if you Google a good workout playlist. And he was like, oh, that all makes sense, because that's all got about, it's got about 150 beats per minute, which is probably about as fast as you run. And that's why you've chosen those songs. Those are the things that are fitting in with that kind of rhythm of your running. And so when I think about, what you're talking about, Reg, is like making it personal and memorable for them. And there's an element of this music idea of how can we get into the rhythm of their business so that we're operating under that kind of rhythm and tempo of, the receivers of the information. And rather than kind of making them pause and pivot and go on our timeline, how can we be kind of part of that rhythm of their day to day? So love that kind of idea and that tie to that music theme.
Yeah, it kind of, listening to that, it makes me think about the third thing that I was saying that was a purpose of this whole mix called, measure the impact of your movement. And that is, take your gigantic feedback loop, which we call the IPO highway, right? Mm-hmm. And make sure that you have clarity right here make sure you can talk about what success looks like for leaders. And, it's like, if they need a mix that looks like this, that's at this type of rhythm or tempo, then that's what it should actually be. And if you can't talk about this in a way that meets them where they are today, there's no chance of it sticking. There's no chance of it being memorable. And we're stuck into this, I think, kind of this cycle. We'll continue to be stuck in that cycle called, so many times leadership development isn't so much a movement inside an organization. It's not necessarily memorable. It's kind of more flavor of the month-ish. It's like, what's the shiny penny right now? And it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick.
Yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment. I think we've all been in, and I think one thing that really sticks out to me with what you said there too, Reg, is one, flavor of the month, but then also meet me where I'm at. If Sharon and I are in the same company and we're peers, I'm in a different place in my development than she is. So having the two of us do the same things, same leadership development things over and over and over again, or whatever the new one is this week. Mm-hmm. and in my career, what I found is you're just grasping to try to find, okay, what's that one little nugget that I can take out of this and bring back to my day-to-day life and work,
Right.
and try to apply, versus there's all this information coming at me and I'm trying to ferret out now what really is meaningful to me versus, Sharon is probably could be something totally different that is meaningful and resonating with her. So I love that. I love that idea, and personal and memorable. I mean, that those are key. Because I don't know how many I don't know how many leadership courses I've been through, and there's probably very few things out of each of them that I could actually go back and say, well, yeah, and in this class I learned about, this is the one thing I took from this, or the couple things I got out of it.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that we've sort of settled for, I'm going to go to a 2-day training, and as long as I can get one thing out of it, that's fine. Like, I don't know when that happened either. I know that I've gotten there where you kind of are like, all right, I'm in and I'm ready. But then, you're just sort of hoping you get that one thing. Well, why isn't it the whole thing that resonates? Why does it have to be one nugget? I think we've sort of settled over time